If you told me a year ago that my life would end up the way it did, I probably would have laughed in your face. Not a nervous chuckle. I mean a full-on, you gotta be kidding me laugh, because you just don't think the universe is that twisted until it is. But let me take you back, right to the morning that started out like something off a greeting card. Golden sunlight painting the porch, the air just cool enough to promise a perfect day, and my wife standing there in this deep red dress that looked like it was custom-made for her. I swear, she glowed. 10 years married, and she still had that way of making me feel like the luckiest man in the neighborhood, maybe in the world. And I'd spent a year plotting her gifted gold antique amulet, the kind of thing you'd expect to see in a museum, sapphire at the center, velvet box and all. My hands were shaking, not from nerves, but because I was so sure she'd love it. And honestly, there are few better feelings than knowing you're about to blow someone's mind with a gift that says, I see you. I remember you. But right in the middle of that perfect moment, before I could even hand her the box, there it was, this shrill voice slicing through our peace like a rusty knife. Are you people seriously exchanging stolen drugs on your front lawn? You ever get that feeling where the world just stops? Like your heart skips a beat, your brain short circuits, and you wonder if you're having some weird out-of-body experience? That was us. We looked over, and sure enough, it was our neighbor across the street, blonde, wild hair, pink cat pajamas, the whole 9 yards standing on her porch, phone out, staring us down like we were public enemy number one. I almost laughed, honestly. The idea that a velvet jewelry box could be a bag of drugs. It was so out there, so cartoonishly hateful, I thought for a second maybe she was just confused. But no, she doubled down, calling us criminals, saying she was dialing 911. My wife squeezed my arm so hard, I thought she'd bruise it, and the look on her face, man, it killed me. All that joy, all that anticipation, gone, replaced by this gut punch of confusion and fear. I told her to ignore it, try to get us inside, keep the day from spiraling any further, but that only made things worse. Suddenly, I was forcing her inside, abusing her her words, not mine shouted across the street with the kind of fury you only see in bad TV dramas. In less than a minute, we went from celebrating a decade of love to being cast as villains in her deranged story. And you know what? The scariest part wasn't even her, it was how easy it was for her to summon the cavalry. Sirens in the distance, red and blue lights splashing across our living room walls, and my wife crying, not because she did anything wrong, but because she just knew how people see us here, how quickly things could go sideways. We're the only black family on our block. We work for this house, every inch of it. But in her eyes, we were always just one accusation away from being reduced to a threat. The cops pulled up like we were a crime scene, 4 of them, hands on their hips, running through the checklist in their heads. I stepped outside, made sure my hands were visible, always do that, just in case me wife right behind me, clutching the box like it was evidence, which in a way I guess it was. The lead cop, an older guy with a mustache that probably saw the 70s, tried to keep it professional, but his partner, a younger guy with a buzz cut and an attitude, just wanted to find reason. Wanted us to trip up. He asked for receipts, like I'm supposed to have paperwork for every nice thing I ever bought my wife right there on the porch. I tried to stay calm, explain the situation, but you could see it in his eyes. He didn't want to believe us. Across the street, the neighbor was still putting on her show, clutching her chest, weeping, pointing. The older cop seemed to get it, at least a little, and asked me to get the receipt. Fine. Humiliating, but whatever. I'd do it if it meant ending this circus. Except Buzzcut wouldn't even let me walk into my own house without a police escort. Officer safety, he said. Standard procedure. You know what I mean? It was the kind of logic that only makes sense if you're looking for trouble. The next part is a cold blur of metal on my wrists, my wife sobbing, the neighbor grinning like she just won the lottery. We were both arrested for giving my wife a present, for existing, basically. They put us in separate cars, drove us downtown, processed us like we were criminals, stripped away every bit of dignity, right down to the shoelaces. I'll never forget the sound of my wife crying somewhere down the hall. That echo stuck with me. You spend hours in a cell, replaying every moment, wondering what you could have done differently, knowing deep down there was nothing. It wasn't about us. It was about her need for control, for some twisted sense of power. When I finally got my one phone call, I called my old college buddy, James, who'd become a lawyer, told him the whole thing. And to his credit, he didn't waste a second, told me to shut up, not sign anything, and that he was coming right over. James is a shark, thank God. He got us out on bail, pulled together everything, security footage, witness statements, even dug into the neighbor's past. Turns out, she wasn't just a racist in pajamas. She was a serial complainer, lawsuits, false claims, and here's the twist, she was in deep with a real estate developer who'd been quietly trying to buy up our street for pennies on the dollar. It was all a scam. She'd run this play before, drive out the undesirables, tank the property values, and cash in. Armed with all that, James built a case, not just for our defense, but to take down the developer and expose the neighbor for what she was upon in a much bigger, uglier game. The day our charges got dismissed was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. I wish you could have seen the look on her face when the judge read out the ruling, when she realized her lies had unraveled in public. But it didn't end there. The lawsuit we filed blew up, made the news, forced the developer's hand. He tried to buy us off, offered a pile of money, but we weren't interested. At least, not at first. We wanted to fight. We wanted justice. But then something strange happened. The neighbor our tormentor came to us one night, pale and shaking, clutching an old photo. Told us the amulet I'd given my wife had been her mother's, lost decades ago. Suddenly, it all made a messed up kind of sense. She hadn't just seen us as outsiders, seen us as thieves of her own happiness, wearing the very thing that symbolized the last good day in her childhood. I like to say I forgave her in that moment, but it wasn't that simple. Hate and pity, they get tangled up. My wife, though, she's got more compassion than anyone I've ever met. She made sure our neighbor got help. We gave the amulet back, locked it away in a box with a note that said, "We hope this brings you a better memory." We focused our fight where it mattered, dropped her from the suit, went after the developer instead. That move, that small act of mercy, it gave us back a piece of ourselves I thought we'd lost. A year later, the developer was gone. The house across the street had new owners, and the our porch was once again bathed in that golden morning light. My wife in a new dress, this time sapphire blue, hair braided, smiling. I handed her a small silver locket, empty, for our memories, just ours. The past didn't define us anymore. We'd fought like hell, but in the end, we won by letting go, by choosing where to put our energy and what to carry forward. Justice isn't always about crushing your enemies. Sometimes it's about knowing when to walk away, when to close the book and start writing a new one. So now I'll leave it here. What would you have done in our place? Would you have shown mercy, or would you have kept fighting until there was nothing left? Tell me in the comments, where do you draw the line between justice and revenge? And what does real community even mean?